So here we are, basically doing a cogeco splice for cogeco. So this is basically how I would find it, sort of waiting ready for me, and then it's my job then to basically put the splice in the actual CSE, waiting for installation. So first of all, we shall strip the cable apart. This is basically ideal height that I would obviously like it. We need it sort of at least 3 or so feet above snow level, so no water gets in this box. You may find them higher depending on where they're put on the power panel. If they are higher, what I tend to do is basically wrap this around not just the once but the twice, in order to get sort of the distance from where the CSE would be at the top down to my table here. But because we're at this height, we're just going to use the one. So I basically measure it right the way round, get sort of to the third hole in here, which is where I would mark it for where I would start stripping. So I've got that measurement here, use my table, just basically go in a bit beyond a couple of feet, and then I know to cut this excess off. So then I've now got my measurement. So basically, to start the strip, you would cut down the messenger basically a few times. You can actually use this messenger as a foam toner, so it actually tones back to the pad, just in case it's not labelled. Sometimes this messenger can be a pain, but it will eventually come back. Which is not going to work today. Oh, there she goes. So pull the messenger back. And so leave a bit of excess on. So that would then, you would strip off the outer casing, pop your foam toner on, and then that will send the tone down the messenger to the pad. But more often than not they are labelled, so it's not very often you have to do that. So again, find your measurement from where you're going to start with your knife. This knife is quite new, so it does take a few cuts to get used to. I always try and keep the cable taut. Obviously not too taut so it kinks, and then basically start stripping. So the idea is not to go too deep, but obviously enough so the membrane either side can actually be released. There's one side, then take it to the other. I do have the comfort of doing this in my garage. Obviously it's a bit different outside, so as you can see I've got my toolbox open, but if I was outside it would be shut, so no water or snow or anything else can get into it. So then in the centre of the cable we're just going to make an incision or a cut which wiggles the membranes out. So you pull one out, pull the other one out. Now with the sticky drop, this stuff, there is glue on this side which will actually be stuck in there. Can be a nightmare, mainly you will see it on older areas, not so much of the new ones. But this white stuff, or the membrane, has to come out in order to reveal your fibre cable. So that's either side done. So then you've got your indentations on either side of the cable, so which you would then make your cut around about an inch, inch and a half. And again. So then basically using your thumbs and your index, again keep the cable taut and then just literally pull, try not to stop until it goes all the way down to where you've cut your membranes. So one side will have the cable there, which the drop is on the left. So that will actually be stuck here. You can hear the cut, and then pull your fibre cable back and cut the excess off on this side. So that's basically a drop cable prepped and ready to go. So I'm just going to hang it on the left hand side of my table and then grab my splice fusion kit. Take the jumper cable out. I tend to wrap this around these two tools, especially if it's windy. I've got my case, I've got my heat shrinks, my Velcro straps, which the installer should use in order to keep everything tight once complete, my screws, and then we should have 4 tie wraps. So I tend to clear up my rubbish before I start splicing. Try not to basically leave a mess. It's my mess, so basically pick it up. And then just basically wrap these together. I don't know, I have tried wearing gloves doing this, obviously in the coldest winter, but it's not ideal when playing with the fibre due to the fact that you need the feel of your fingers. So you take your 2 tie wraps, which they go in the bottom corner. So get that loop ready. And the same the other side. So we tend to use 2 tie wraps in order to make this, well, the jumper and the drop sit in this splice tray as comfortable and as snugly so nothing's moving. So then your jumper, again I use the table to measure this, and looking at the splice tray I always use the jumper on the right hand side. So usually around about 14.5 inches, which I'll leave outside, and then the rest inside will be the necessary slack. So there's 1 tie wrap, and then your 2 tie wrap. Not too tight, but not too loose. And then with your drop cable, well, basically I want sort of this to fit in snugly as well. So I tend to sort of not having it twisted from the entry of the CSE, so then that'll go on the left hand side. And again, tie wrap that down. So I'm basically prepped and ready to go. So now I'll lock this into my table, the jumper going in that hole. So now she is locked in. So again, with wind and stuff, that ain't going anywhere. So with your fibre strippers, use the biggest one to actually take out the casing of this fibre jumper, just a quick snip. Pull it back, and cut your strands here, and then just basically pull the rest out. That releases your fibre jumper. So then, always put your heat shrink on first. The amount of times that I've not put it on and spliced away and then having to cut the splice and start again. So just get into the habit of basically putting this heat shrink on before you get your machine out. At least then you know you're ready. Now we're going to grab our machine, place that there. It does have rubber feet. It's not all surfaces are like this. You've got your cutter and you have a new wet wipe. In the summer I'll get through about 2 wet wipes a day, just basically with the dry dust this is about. Not too bad in the winter. So start off with the drop. So I'll take out my left hand side clip, so the 250, which is basically for your main drop cable here, and then the 900 is for your jumper. So try and have it straight as possible, or at least about an inch or so sticking out. So clamp that down, straighten it up. That's basically when this gets cut, I want it cut as straight as possible. So then the smallest teeth on your fibre stripper, so always try and have them at an angle. And then pull away. The drop cable may obviously break through the winter due to the fact that it's really cold. So just using my finger and thumb to get rid of any excess. Using then my wet wipe to clean it. It's probably imperative that you keep this guy warm as well, because the drop cable can keep breaking on this. Making sure that you basically clean all your points and your blade as well. So close that down, got my cut, take it out, straight into the machine, take out the right sided 900. I always keep the machine closed, so again, no dust, no nothing is going back in there. With the fibre jumper leads, you'll find in the winter that they will be a bit stiff, and you want to obviously try and get it as straight as possible. So you just tend to work the jumper. So this time we're going to use the middle on the fibre stripper. Do this in stages. So stage 1, 2, and then the last one, number 3. So again, exactly the same as the drop. Any excess, give it a clean with your wet wipe. And then cut exactly the same way again, trying to line that fibre cable as straight as possible. So you got your cut, and again, with it being of a cold winter nature, I would just make sure by moving this up and again just applying a bit of pressure to it just to make sure it sits straight in the machine, and then bring that back. So that's your second one, so drop that in. You can turn your machine on first, but I don't turn it on until I've got my either drop inside. So just wait for that guy to load up. So now we hit our play button. It looks like a play button, but your action button. So I've got 0.5 here. Effectively, I try and go no more than 1 to get the best possible splice, which is your 0-1 splice. But like I say, if you've got 2, 3, you're going to have to take it out, rework it. Worst case scenario is redoing them, putting them back in, but it's just making sure that they're straight as possible. So once you've got your level, hit the action button again. That will perform the fusion splice. So we shall wait for that. So that's now done. I've got an estimation loss of 0.01. So I'll move my heat shrink right up to the door of this machine, open it up, use my thumb on the drop, use my other thumb on this side of the drop. Actually, I'll open this first. So thumb there, thumb this side, using the index fingers to pull the clips out, and then just basically keep your splice taut. So no bending whatsoever. I'll inch in your heat shrink across. So making sure that's sort of bang in the middle of the 2 cables. Again, hold it tight. You've got your line on the left and the line on the right. And then literally pull down. 2 clips go down. You can put them down manually. And then wait basically for that to heat up. In the meantime, again, clean up any excess that you've got going on. And pop the drop in the garbage. So now I'll grab a couple of tie wraps. Basically 1-inch screw. And this time I can basically pop my knife away. You do get a spare heat shrink just in case you do have to re-splice. So now the fan is going at the minute. That'll cool the heat shrink down. What I do with the silicone is when I take this heat shrink out, effectively this guy is supposed to sit in the splice tray as best as he can, but I find that it doesn't actually stay there and moves about. So what I tend to do, just pop you back there, is use a bit of silicone where my heat shrink is going to sit. Obviously maybe a bit messy trying to do a re-splice, but I'd rather it sit in and not move about. So basically we work the drop cable first. So like I say, just going right round the outside of it. So you get as much slack in as possible, so there's at least an option of 3 or 4 re-splice attempts in here. Drop that into the silicone and then do exactly the same with your jumper. As you can see, it sort of coils in place for you, but yeah, basically try and get your slack right the way around the outside so there's nothing in the middle, nothing crossing, nothing resting on each other. So that signal is just able to pass. Cut my excess tie wraps off and turn the machine off. So that splice is now ready to go. So the way we put it in, release from your table, carefully take the jumper out, and then basically place it in your CSE. So some guys will actually do it that way. More of us cogeco guys actually basically go for the left. So again, screw in. So the screw is literally going to go into sort of, like I say, we used the third one to measure when I first started. So the actual screw hole will go into the middle one on the back here. Until it is secure. Pop your lid over the top. So that's now in. And then your cable, like I say, going right the way around the outside, which, one, for extra slack, but two, they're making sure that we leave maximum space in the middle as possible. So one screw tie wrap will go that side, and then another one this side. So again, all this is doing is just keep the drop cable from not moving inside the CSE. So if the drop is sort of tugged by digging or tugged at somebody at the nap, then effectively nothing should move in here. So I'm just using the smaller screws. So you've got basically the second hole up on this side. And then the third hole on the left hand side above the splice tray. Cut our excess off. And I simply just coil the fibre jumper like so, so I'm not over bending it. Leave your Velcro straps for the installer, and basically the remainder of the screws as well. So they've got screws to put their micronode in, and then basically their coax should be tied into the fibre drop as well. So again, it's nice and presentable, it's easy to work in and out of, especially if you're the guy going there next. And then basically with the marker we would just simply write down, in this case, my tech number, your light level, which could be -2, 3, 4. We usually round it up to the nearest decimal point, so if it was 4.76, and I'm just going to put -4.8. And then today's date, which would be December 29th, and then the year 15, and then we basically simply add a stroke on the front, just letting the installer know that that is spliced and ready to go. And then that's basically it. So close it up, don't forget to supply your tap lock, and that's basically it. Again, tidy up any debris that you've got going, and that is your splice completed. Thank you.